of this conference, that is, a new and better deal for elephant conservation, tourism, rural communities in the key African elephant range states. Our discussions were based on the three objectives of this conference. The first objective is agree on a common position for elephant management as we engage regionally and internationally. The second one is propose a workable framework for stockpile management, that is ivory stockpile management, and other elephant and wildlife products. The last one is to enhance community participation in wildlife management, both at the national and international level. Your Excellency, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, during our meeting, we discussed various issues and we identified some challenges which are affecting elephant conservation and community in key African elephant range states. The issues are listed on the screen. I'm just going to read them out for the benefit of those who cannot maybe see on the screen. The first issue is the human-elephant conflict. The second challenge, inadequate resources. And on inadequate resources, I think I should elaborate a bit on that. At the moment, certain African countries are heavily relying on government funding for conservation. And as we know, with government funding, we are also competing with other equally important priorities. And therefore, the resources to manage wildlife are not adequate. We also identified land use change as an issue because not only that our elephant populations are increasing, but also our human population is also increasing. Therefore, the issue of land use is very important. We also touched on CITES restrictions. CITES is a convention, international convention, which deals with trade in endangered species at the international level. And there are some restrictions there which are imposed, and we cannot sell some of our elephant products as we would have wished to generate funding, of course, for conservation. We also identified ivory stockpile management as one of the challenges, and the overall outcome of the meeting, we, as officials, we concurred that it's very important for Africa to be speaking with a unified voice at international forums. At the moment, it's quite a challenge because, for example, if we go to CITES with our elephant or ivory trade proposal, we do not get supported by some other African countries, and that is really a setback for us. And we therefore feel it's very important for us to devise a mechanism, a lobbying mechanism, to make sure that Africa speaks with a unified voice on the issue of international trade in endangered species, including trade in ivory. We took note that although the African elephant population at a global level is declining, in Southern Africa, the populations are increasing. And in fact, we hold the majority of the global African elephant population. And we therefore feel that it's important and it's really imperative that we are heard and we are listened to, because we are the ones who are living with the elephants and we are bearing the brunt of living with those elephants. As I said earlier, that the issue of funding also was discussed, only then we'll succeed. Your Excellencies, Honorable Minister and Deputy Ministers, we also came up with some very specific issues which we feel should be dealt with as soon as practical for us to succeed in elephant conservation. Otherwise, we'll fail. We think it's very important for our communities to be heard because our communities are the ones who are living with elephants on a daily basis. And we therefore feel that both at the national and international level, they must be included in decision-making processes. The issue of generational funds are also talked about, and here I'm just elaborating further to say that we should be allowed to sell elephant and wildlife products in order to generate funding. As we all know, elephants know no borders. They move from one country to another. They do not respect political borders. And we therefore feel that we should, we're recommending that we should manage elephants as a collective unit. And we can only succeed in that if we harmonize our policies and legislations. And again, both at the national levels and also at the SADC level. Human-wildlife conflict was identified as a big challenge, and our recommendation is that there's a need for countries who do not have human-wildlife conflict management policies, plans, and legislations in place to urgently develop them, and they must make sure that those instruments also include cost of living with wildlife or elephants, including elephants, I mean. Also identified as a challenge, Your Excellency, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, we feel that at the moment we are so restricted. We cannot sell under the current CITES framework, and we need to urgently act on that. And we also strongly feel that our sovereign rights as independent states are not respected and that they are being infringed on. And CITES is also now venturing into issues of domestic trade, which we feel is beyond their scope and they should not go there. That is basically what we discussed as the outcome of the officials meeting. I'm now going to touch on the involvement of communities will also be discussed during the meeting, and we'll have to make sure that we go there prepared as well, because it's very important that our communities are involved in decision making, even at CITES levels. On the review of the convention, during the previous conference of the parties, certain African countries submitted a document on the review of the convention. The reason why we submitted that document is because we feel that CITES is not meeting its original intended purpose. The purpose of CITES, or the aim rather, is to promote sustainable international trade. But at the moment, the convention has imposed so many bans and trade restrictions. And that is why we feel the convention should be reviewed. We also have noted that the scope of the convention has been expanded, and that is why now they are even talking about domestic trade, whereas they're just supposed to confine the provisions to international trade. I think those are the three issues. We know that they are likely to come up, but as I said, the deadline to submit documents is the 14th of June, and some more documents might come up. But for now, that's what we have.